Long ago, food was not chosen, it was simply what the day allowed. If you are listening at night, tell me where you are and what time it is. It is late now, or at least it feels late, and history does not mind the hour. It never has. The past is patient. It waits quietly, like a room with the lights turned low, where nothing is expected of you. You can sit here for a while. You can listen without trying to remember. Tonight, there is no rush to understand. We are only noticing. We are standing gently inside another time, letting it move at its own unhurried pace. Imagine a medieval morning beginning without an alarm. No sharp sound, only light arriving slowly through small windows or through cracks in wooden walls. Somewhere, a fire has been kept alive through the night. It breathes softly. The day begins the same way it often did, with hunger that is familiar and not dramatic. Hunger that has a routine. Medieval people did not wake thinking about variety or choice. They woke thinking about what was there, what was left, what could be stretched. Bread is already present in the room, even before anyone speaks. It is everywhere in this world. Bread sits on tables, on cloths, on wooden boards. Sometimes it is fresh. More often, it is not. It is dark, dense, heavy. In the hand, it smells faintly sour. Grain was precious, but bread was ordinary. Ordinary in the way breathing is ordinary. You do not celebrate it. You simply rely on it. The bread is not always eaten as bread. It becomes a plate. It becomes a spoon. It becomes something to soak up whatever liquid might be nearby. Medieval meals were quiet affairs, often eaten without ceremony. There is no sense of performance. People eat because the day requires energy. Chewing is slow. Talking is optional. Sometimes the bread is dipped into a thin broth, made from vegetables that grew close to home. Onions, leeks, cabbage. Whatever survived the season, meat exists. But it waits its turn. For many people, it waits a long time. Most days do not include it. Meat belongs to festivals, to market days, to moments that stand out slightly from the rest. On ordinary days, the body is sustained by plants and grains. Beans simmer patiently. Peas soften in pots that have been used so often they no longer look new. There is comfort in this repetition, even if no one calls it comfort. Breakfast is not what we might expect it to be. Sometimes it is nothing at all. Sometimes it is yesterday's bread and a small drink. Ale, watered down, is safer than water more often than not. It is not for celebration. It is practical. It is part of staying alive. Children drink it. Workers drink it. The taste is mild. The effect is gentle. No one is trying to escape anything. As the day moves forward, food appears when it can. A pot hangs over the fire, and it may stay there for hours. Things are added slowly. A handful of grain, a vegetable chopped without much precision, salt if there is salt. Spices are rare and not expected. Flavor is subtle, familiar. The same meal eaten many times begins to blur into itself, and that is acceptable. No one is keeping track. In fields and villages, people pause to eat when work allows it. They sit where they are, a piece of bread, a bite of cheese, if the household keeps animals. Cheese varies widely. Some is sharp, Some barely tastes of anything at all. It is made quickly, eaten quickly. There is no aging for pleasure, only for necessity. Milk does not last. Cheese does. The idea of a recipe would feel strange here. Cooking is not about instructions. It is about memory and availability. Hands know what to do because they have always done it. The pot knows what it is for. The fire knows how hot to be. Meals do not surprise anyone. They arrive quietly, do their work, and leave no impression beyond fullness. As evening approaches, hunger returns, softer this time. The final meal of the day is often the most substantial, but still modest. Bread again, broth again, maybe a small piece of meat if fortune has allowed it, maybe not. People eat slowly, not because they are savoring, but because there is nowhere else to go. Darkness arrives early. Food runs out at a predictable pace. When the meal is done, there is no dessert, no ending note, just the absence of hunger for. Now, the body settles, the fire dims. Tomorrow will ask for the same things, and the same food will answer, quietly, without complaint. The day continues without marking itself. Time in the medieval world does not announce its passing. It simply moves like shadows shifting along a wall. Food follows this rhythm. It appears when it must and disappears when it can. There is no sense of planning far ahead. Most thinking stays close to the present moment. What is in the pot? What is left in the sack? What might last until tomorrow? Grain is the quiet center of everything. Wheat, rye, barley, oats. Which one depends on the land, the weather, and a bit of luck. Wheat is admired but not guaranteed. Rye and barley are more patient crops. They tolerate poorer soil. They grow even when conditions are unkind. Their bread is darker, heavier, slower to chew. It fills the stomach in a way that feels reliable, even if it never feels exciting. Flour is ground by hand or by mill, and neither process is gentle. Grit sometimes remains. Bread crunches unexpectedly. Teeth accept this without protest. Medieval mouths are used to effort. Eating is physical work. Nothing is soft unless it has been boiled for a long time. Porridge is common for this reason. Grain cooked in water or milk until it loses its shape. It slides easily. It warms the body. It asks very little in return. Vegetables come and go with the seasons. There is no illusion of constant availability. When something grows, it is eaten often. When it disappears, it is not mentioned again until it returns. Turnips, carrots, that are pale and thin. Cabbage that smells strong when cooked. Greens gathered from nearby fields. Some are cultivated. Some are simply known to be safe because they always have been. Meals taste mostly of themselves. There is salt, sometimes. Salt matters. It preserves. It sharpens. It makes repetition bearable. But salt can be expensive. Some households use it sparingly, pinching a few grains between fingers that have learned restraint. Herbs appear more often than spices. Parsley, sage, dill, they grow nearby. They do not need to travel. For monks and those living in religious houses, food follows rules. Meat is avoided on many days. Fish takes its place. Dried fish, salted fish, fish that smells strongly of the sea even when eaten far from it. It is soaked, cooked, softened. It does not resemble the fish we imagine now. It is sustenance shaped by doctrine, not preference. In towns, markets offer more variety, but only briefly. Fresh fruit appears and vanishes. Apples, pears, berries that stain fingers. Most fruit is eaten quickly or preserved if possible. Drying takes time. Honey is sometimes used, but sugar is rare and distant. Sweetness exists, but it is subtle and fleeting. A moment rather than a habit. For the poor, hunger is a familiar companion, not always severe, sometimes just present enough to be noticed. Portions are measured by need, not by desire. There is an understanding that eating too much today means eating less tomorrow. This knowledge settles deep into the body. It shapes posture. It shapes patience. It shapes the way people sit quietly when food runs low. Cooking happens over open fires. Pots are shared between generations. Smoke lingers. Everything smells faintly of it. Food absorbs this without question. There are no separate flavors. Everything belongs to the same air, the same walls, the same hands. Even the taste of bread carries hints of the hearth. As night moves closer again, the pot is scraped carefully. Nothing is wasted without reason. Leftovers are not an afterthought. They are part of the plan, even if no one calls it that. Tomorrow's meal already exists in pieces, waiting to be warmed, thinned, stretched a little further. Eating ends quietly. There is no clear line between the meal and the rest that follows. The body slows. The room grows darker. Hunger steps back, just far. Enough to allow sleep. And in the stillness, food becomes memory rather than presence. Resting until it is needed again. Late evening settles without ceremony. The work is mostly done, not because it is finished, but because the light has faded enough to make more effort. Unnecessary. People sit closer to the fire now. The warmth matters more than conversation. Food, if it appears again, is modest. Sometimes it is only a small piece of bread, saved deliberately. Sometimes it is a thin drink, warmed slightly, just enough to be felt. Storage is a quiet concern that never fully leaves the mind. Grain is kept in sacks or bins, watched carefully. Moisture ruins it. Mice find it. Mold arrives without asking. Every loss is felt, even if no one speaks of it. Food is counted by touch and weight rather than numbers. Hands know when a sack is lighter than it should be. Eyes notice when the bread loaf is smaller than yesterday. Winter sharpens this awareness. Fresh food disappears almost entirely. Meals become simpler, quieter. Dried peas, salted meat if there is any, hard cheese. That has lasted longer than expected. Everything takes longer to chew. Eating slows the cold, but only slightly. Fires burn carefully. Fuel matters too. Nothing is abundant enough to waste without thought. Children grow up inside this rhythm. They learn early what food means. Not pleasure, not choice. It means continuity. It means another day that can be faced without weakness. They eat what they are given and rarely ask for more. Hunger teaches patience long before words do. By adulthood, this patience feels natural almost invisible. There are moments of change, but they are small. A feast day arrives, a wedding, a religious holiday. Suddenly, there is meat on the table, roasted, perhaps. The smell fills the room in a way that feels almost unfamiliar. People eat more slowly, not from restraint, but from attention. These meals stand out precisely because they are rare. They are remembered long after they are finished. But most days return to the same quiet pattern. Bread, porridge, broth. The body adjusts. It learns what to expect and stops asking for more. There is a certain calm in this predictability. No surprises, no decisions. Food arrives as it always has, shaped by land and season and habit. Utensils are few, fingers do most. Of the work, knives are shared. Spoons are personal and valued. Bowls are passed around. Eating is not private. It happens among others, even when no one speaks. The sound of chewing is accepted. The scrape of wood against wood. The soft bubbling of the fire nearby. As people prepare to sleep, hunger is present, but distant. It waits politely. It knows it will be answered again. Tomorrow will bring the same foods, the same motions. Grain ground, water boiled, bread broken. Nothing new and nothing missing. The medieval world does not dream of different meals. It rests inside the ones it knows. And as the night deepens, food fades from thought entirely, leaving only the steady, familiar sense of having eaten enough. Just enough. Morning returns quietly, without asking if anyone is ready for it. The light finds its way back into rooms that have not changed overnight. The fire is coaxed awake again. A few careful movements, practiced and unremarkable, bring it back too. Life, food follows the fire. It always does. There is no strong separation between days. Meals do not reset at sunrise. They continue. What was left from yesterday becomes today's beginning. A pot is lifted, its contents examined without much thought. If it smells acceptable, it will be eaten. If it does not, it will still be eaten. Sometimes after boiling a little longer, waste is rare. Even disappointment is brief. In households with animals, mornings include milk, but only briefly. Milk is fresh for a short time, then it must become something else. It is warmed, strained, turned into cheese or curds. The process is quiet and repetitive. Hands move without instruction. The result is never exactly the same, and that does not matter. The goal is preservation, not perfection. Eggs appear now and then, not daily. Chickens lay when they choose. Eggs are noticed when they arrive, accepted without celebration. They are cooked simply, boiled, sometimes mixed into other foods to stretch them slightly. The taste is mild. The nourishment is welcome. 4. Many people, work begins before eating. Hunger is familiar enough to be postponed. Bodies move through fields, workshops, kitchens, carrying a low, steady awareness of needing food later. When they do eat, it is often standing, a piece of bread broken off, a mouthful swallowed without pause. The day does not stop for meals. Meals fit themselves into the day. In larger households or estates, kitchens work steadily, not hurried, but constant. Large pots simmer for hours. Food is cooked in bulk because it must be. There are many mouths. Portions are similar. No one expects individuality. Eating is collective, shaped by necessity rather than preference. Seasoning remains. Minimal, fat, when available, matters more than flavor. Animal fat, butter, lard. These add energy. They make simple foods more sustaining. A small amount changes everything. A spoonful stirred into porridge. A bit melted over vegetables. It is not indulgence. It is practicality. Fish continues to play a quiet role, especially on days shaped by religious calendars. Rivers provide. Some, the sea provides others, though mostly in preserved form. Salted fish waits patiently in storage, firm and dry. When it is used, it is soaked for a long time, slowly returning to something edible. The smell lingers. People grow used to it. Markets, when they appear, bring a soft sense of variation. People look, not with excitement, but with assessment. Can this be afforded? Will it last? Is it worth carrying home? A handful of nuts, a piece of dried fruit, something small that changes a meal only slightly. Enough to be noticed, not enough to alter routine. The idea of hunger shifts throughout the day. It is strongest in the morning. By midday, it settles into something manageable. By evening, it becomes quiet again. The body adapts to this rhythm. It learns when to expect food and when not to. Complaints fade over time. What remains is endurance. Eating is rarely rushed, but it is rarely leisurely either. It exists in between. Slow enough to be thorough. Quick enough to return to work. Conversation may happen, but it is not centered on the meal. Food does not need commentary. It is simply present. As the light changes again, meals drift toward evening without announcement. The same foods return. Bread, broth, something soft, something filling. The day folds gently into itself, and food once again does its quiet work, leaving no trace beyond a tired body that is ready to rest. As the hours stretch forward, the middle of the day arrives almost unnoticed. There is no bell for lunch for most people, no clear pause. Work slows slightly, only because bodies do. Someone sits on a low stool. Someone else leans against a wall warmed by the sun. Food appears in pieces rather than courses. A chunk of bread is broken by hand. The sound is dull, familiar. Crumbs fall and are brushed away or eaten later without concern. Bread is never treated casually, but it is never admired either. It is respected in the quiet way things are respected when they are always needed. No one wonders what kind it is. It is simply bread. If there is cheese, it is cut carefully. Not thin for elegance, but thin for fairness. Everyone sees how much everyone else receives. Balance matters. A household functions better when portions feel even. Cheese is firm, sometimes crumbly. It tastes of the place it came from. Grass. Smoke. Time. It carries the memory of milk, but only faintly now. Vegetables, when eaten raw, are simple. An onion peeled with fingers. A turnip bitten into without ceremony. More often, vegetables are softened by heat. Cooked until they no longer resist. Texture matters more than flavor. Soft food rests easier in tired bodies. After hours of labor, Ease becomes important. Soups and stews continue their slow existence. They change over the course of days, becoming thicker or thinner depending on what is added. Water stretches them. Grain anchors them. Each ladle is slightly different, and no one expects consistency. The pot remembers everything that has gone into it. It holds time as well as food. For those who work outdoors, meals are shaped by weather. Cold days demand heavier food. Fat becomes precious. A small piece of salted pork, shared among several people, changes the tone of a meal. It adds strength. It makes the afternoon more manageable. No one eats it quickly. It is chewed with attention, not pleasure exactly, but appreciation. Sweetness appears rarely and without excess. Honey, when available, is used carefully. A little stirred into porridge, a drop on bread. It is not a treat in the modern sense. It is more like a reminder that variation exists somewhere in the world. The taste does not linger long enough to distract. Children eat what adults eat, just less of it. There are no special meals for them. They learn flavors early, including bitterness and plainness. Their tastes adjust accordingly. Complaints fade with repetition. Hunger teaches acceptance faster than instruction ever could. In towns, street food exists in small, practical forms. Hot pies filled with meat or vegetables, sold quickly, eaten quickly. They are not elaborate. They are meant to be held, not admired. The crust is thick. The filling is modest. It serves its purpose and then disappears. Drinks remain simple. Ale, small beer, sometimes water if it is trusted. Wine appears in certain regions, but even then it is not indulgent. It is part of the meal, not an escape from it. Drinking follows eating naturally, without emphasis. As afternoon turns toward evening, hunger shifts again. It becomes quieter, more patient. The body knows another meal will come, or it hopes so, calmly. There is no anxiety yet. Only the steady movement of time, carrying food and people along together, without asking either of them to hurry. Evening arrives slowly, like something settling rather than beginning. The work of the day loosens its hold. Hands that have been busy for hours rest more often. Food becomes relevant again, not urgently, just naturally, as it always does at this time. The evening meal is familiar before it appears. It has already been imagined by the body. The pot is brought forward again, lifted, stirred, inspected. Steam reserves softly. The smell is known well enough that it barely registers. This is not novelty. This is reassurance. Bread returns to the center without comment. It always does. Loaves are cut or broken with care, not because they are precious in an emotional way, but because they must last. Portions are adjusted by sight and experience. No one needs to measure. Everyone can see what is fair. The stew or broth is thicker now than it was earlier in the day. Time has changed it. Grain has softened further. Vegetables have given up what they had to give. If meat was added at any point, it has dissolved into the whole, no longer separate or distinct. The meal is cohesive. Everything tastes like everything else. People eat sitting closer together, not for warmth alone, but because this is how evenings work. There is less space between tasks now, less distance between one person and another. Conversation may drift in and out, but silence is just as acceptable. Eating does not require sound. For those who live alone, the meal is quieter still. The same motions performed without witnesses. The same foods eaten without ceremony. There is no sense of loneliness attached to this. Solitude is common enough to feel ordinary. Food does not change its nature depending on how many people are present after eating. There is a pause, a moment where hunger steps back fully. It does not disappear, but it rests. The body recognizes this feeling. It knows it will not last forever, but it accepts it while it can. Leftovers are considered carefully. What remains is saved if possible, covered, set aside. Nothing is thrown away casually, even scraps of potential. Tomorrow is already present in these small decisions, though no one names it as such. As night deepens, thoughts of food fade, not because food is unimportant, but because it has done its work. The body is steadier, the mind slows, the day no longer demands attention. Somewhere, grain waits to be ground again. Vegetables wait in the soil. Bread waits to be baked. The cycle does not pause, even while people sleep. And so the medieval day ends the way it began, quietly, with food understood, rather than discussed, woven so thoroughly into life that it no longer needs to be noticed. It will be there again. It always is. The days continue, one after another, without asking to be remembered. In this medieval world, food remains steady in its quiet role, neither celebrated nor ignored. It simply arrives, as it always has, shaped by land, weather, and habit. By now, the rhythm of eating is deeply settled. It does not change much from week to week, and that sameness brings a kind of ease. Grain still forms the backbone of every meal. It is stored carefully, watched through the seasons. People know exactly how long it must last, even if they never say the number aloud. Each scoop taken from a sack carries a silent calculation. Enough for today, enough left for tomorrow. The grain is soaked, ground, boiled, baked. Its form changes, but its presence does not. In many homes, porridge appears more often than bread. It requires less effort, less fuel. A pot can feed many mouths. The texture is soft, forgiving especially. For the young and the old, it is eaten slowly, sometimes in silence, sometimes with small murmured comments that drift away before becoming conversations. The spoon moves back and forth. The bowl empties. The body warms. Vegetables remain modest companions. They are not centerpieces. They do not announce themselves. They simply join the meal when they are available. A handful of beans, a chopped leek, a cabbage leaf torn and dropped into the pot. Their flavors blend until none stands apart. This blending is expected. Distinction is unnecessary. In rural households, the garden is close but not generous. It gives what it can. Some days it offers very little. People accept this without surprise. They have learned not to expect abundance from the earth. They work it patiently, knowing it responds in its own time. Preserved foods continue to matter. Drying, salting, smoking. These methods stretch the seasons gently, allowing food to exist beyond its natural moment. Salted meat is used carefully, never wasted on a single meal. A small piece flavors many servings. Its role is subtle but important, like a quiet memory of better days. Religious calendars continue to guide eating. though not always consciously. Certain days feel lighter, others heavier. Fish replaces meat when required. Meals shift slightly in response, but never dramatically. Obedience to these rhythms becomes second nature. Food follows belief without argument. In towns, bakeries release familiar smells into narrow streets. People pass without stopping, already knowing what waits inside. Bread bought today will not taste much different from bread bought yesterday. That predictability comforts more than it disappoints. There is relief in knowing what to expect. Children observe all of this quietly. They learn when to ask for food and when not to. They learn that eating is part of the day, not the focus of it. Hunger rises and falls like breath. It does not frighten them, it simply exists. As the afternoon moves forward, small pauses appear. A worker leans against a wall. A woman sits briefly, bowl in hand. Food is eaten wherever rest is found. There is no ceremony. The act is practical, woven into movement rather than standing apart from it. Taste remains secondary to function. Meals are meant to sustain, not to impress. People eat until the sharpest edge of hunger fades. That is enough. Fullness in the modern sense is rare and unnecessary. The light shifts again and the body notices. It begins to anticipate the evening meal, not with excitement, but with calm expectation. The same foods will return. The same motions will follow. Nothing surprising waits ahead. And in this quiet predictability, food continues to anchor the day, steady and unchanging, asking for nothing more than attention enough to prepare it, and patience enough to eat it slowly. As the day settles into its middle hours, there is a soft slowing, almost imperceptible. The sun remains overhead, but its presence feels less urgent now. But is continue working, though movements grow smaller and more deliberate. Food fits into this time gently, without interrupting it. Midday eating is often quiet and unremarkable. There is no formal break, no clear beginning or end. Someone reaches for bread while standing. Someone else sits briefly, bowl resting on their knees. The food is familiar enough that it barely enters conscious thought. Hands move, mouths chew. Hunger eases just enough. Bread at this hour is rarely fresh. It is yesterday's bread, or older. Hard at the edges, dense in the middle. Sometimes it is softened with liquid. Sometimes it is eaten as it is, with steady patience. Teeth accept the work. This effort has been learnt over years, starting early in life. Alongside the bread, there may be a small portion of something else. A few beans cooked down until they no longer resemble their original shape. A spoonful of thickened broth. Perhaps a bit of cheese, saved carefully and cut into uneven pieces. These additions do not change the meal's character. They only support it. Fat, when present, remains quiet but powerful. A trace of butter melting into grain. A thin sheen of animal fat on the surface of soup. These small things matter deeply, though no one comments on them. They make the body last longer through the afternoon. They soften the edges of fatigue. The pot continues its long existence. It is rarely emptied completely. Instead, it evolves. What was thin becomes thick. What was simple becomes layered by time rather than design. The pot does not rush. It holds warmth and memory together, offering both back when needed. In monasteries and religious houses, meals follow their own calm order. Silence often accompanies eating. Food is taken with attention but without indulgence. Bread, vegetables, fish, portions measured, no excess. The rhythm is steady, almost meditative, though no one names it that way. Eating becomes another quiet duty. Outside these walls, the rhythm is less formal but no less settled. Farmers pause near fields. Craftsmen eat where they work. Food does not demand a special place. It belongs wherever people happen to be. The ground, a bench, a doorstep warmed by the sun. Fruit appears occasionally at this time of day, depending on the season. An apple bitten into slowly, berries eaten by the handful. Sweetness arrives briefly and leaves just as quickly. It is noticed, but not pursued. There is no attempt to preserve the moment beyond the last bite. Drinks remain modest. Ale diluted enough to refresh without dulling the senses. Water, if it is trusted. There is no desire to drink more than necessary. The body knows how much it needs and stops there. As afternoon deepens, hunger does not return suddenly. It approaches gradually, like a distant sound growing clearer. People sense it without responding immediately. Work continues. Food can wait. A little longer. It always has. The day stretches forward, held together by these small, repeated acts of eating. Nothing dramatic happens. Nothing is resolved. The body is simply maintained, quietly, steadily, by food that asks for very little. Attention and gives just enough in return. As evening approaches once more, the pace of the world softens again. The work of hands becomes slower, not because it is finished, but because the body begins to feel the long shape of the day. Hunger returns in a familiar way, without urgency, without sharpness. It has learned how to wait. The evening meal forms itself much as it always does. There is no decision to be made. The pot is already there. It has been there all day, holding warmth and continuity. Someone stirs it gently, not to improve it, but to acknowledge it. Steam rises, carrying a scent that no longer feels like a smell at all, but like part of the room itself. Bread is brought out again. Perhaps the last of a loaf that has lasted longer than expected. The crust is firm now. The inside is dense. It is broken carefully, not ceremonially, just attentively. Each piece has weight. Each piece matters. Eating begins without an answer. The stew is thicker now, changed by time rather than intention. What began as water has become substance. What were once separate ingredients now exist as one. The meal no longer tells a story of how it was made. It simply exists, ready to be eaten. People sit closer together, not out of affection necessarily, but because evenings draw things inward. Light fades. Space feels smaller. Food tastes the same regardless of where one sits, but warmth is shared more easily this way. Silence settles comfortably among those eating. No one feels compelled to fill it. For some, this is the most complete meal of the day. For others, it is no different from the rest. Either way, it is accepted without judgment. The body responds with relief rather than pleasure. Hunger loosens its hold. Muscles rest more easily. Thoughts slow. Utensils move with practiced ease. A spoon lifted. A bowl tilted slightly. a piece of bread dipped into liquid to soften it. These motions require no attention. They have been learned so well they no longer feel like actions at all. After the meal, there is no immediate transition. People do not stand at once. They remain where they are, letting the warmth of food spread gradually. This pause is important. Though it is never named, it allows the body to settle into itself again. What remains of the meal is considered carefully. Leftovers are not mistakes. They are part of the rhythm. The pot is covered. Bread is wrapped. These acts are quiet promises to the next day. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed. As darkness deepens, food slips out of thought. It has done what it came to do. The body no longer asks for it. Instead, it asks for rest. The fire burns lower. The room grows still. Outside, the land waits. Fields hold grain not yet harvested. Gardens hold vegetables not yet grown. Animals rest, unaware of their future role. Everything remains connected, even in stillness. The medieval day ends without conclusion. There is no final taste, no closing note. Only the steady feeling of having eaten enough for now. And in that quiet fullness, sleep arrives gently, carrying hunger forward into tomorrow, where it'll be met again in the same familiar ways. Morning arrives again, without effort, without intention. It does not announce itself. It simply becomes lighter. The air shifts slightly. Shadows move across walls that have seen many mornings before. In this medieval world, nothing prepares for breakfast in advance. Food waits quietly, just as people do. The fire is the first thing noticed. Not because it is dramatic, but because it must be checked. Embers are stirred gently. A breath is given to the coals. Warmth returns slowly, like a thought forming without words. Food always follows the fire. It has learned to do so. What is eaten in the morning depends mostly on what survived the night. Bread is usually there. It often is. Sometimes it is wrapped. Sometimes it is left uncovered, hardening slightly at the edges. No one minds this. Hard bread is still bread. It is broken carefully, more from habit than reverence. Each piece feels familiar in the hand. If there is porridge, it is thin and pale, warmed again from the day before or made fresh with little effort. Grain meets water. Heat does the rest. The spoon moves slowly. Steam rises and fades before it can be noticed. The taste is mild enough to disappear almost immediately. That is part of its comfort. Milk appears only briefly when it does at all. It is never trusted to remain milk for long. It is warmed, watched, guided into another form. Curds gather quietly. Whey separates. Nothing about this process feels important. Enough to mention aloud. It happens because it always has. In some homes, morning food is eaten standing. There is no reason to sit yet. Work waits. The body knows this. Hunger is softened just enough to allow movement. A piece of bread is enough. A few mouthfuls. No one eats until they are full. Fullness is not the goal. For those leaving early, food travels with them, wrapped in cloth, tucked into pockets. Eating happens later, when the body asks again. There is no shame in stopping briefly to eat. There is also no ceremony. Food fits into movement rather than interrupting it. The kitchen If there is one, stays awake even after others leave. Someone remains near the fire. Someone always does. The pot is checked again. Water is added. A handful of grain is dropped. In without measuring. A vegetable is cut roughly and added without thought. The pot accepts all of it patiently. Salt is used sparingly but consistently. A pinch here, another later. It is never poured. Salt is understood. It sharpens without drawing attention. It keeps food steady. It keeps bodies steady too. There is little conversation about meals. No one asks what is for breakfast. They already know. The answer is always some version of what was eaten yesterday. That sameness does not disappoint. It reassures. It tells the body that the world has not changed overnight. Children eat alongside adults without distinction. The same food, smaller portions. They learn early that eating is not an event. It is part of the background of living. Hunger comes, hunger goes. Neither is frightening. As the morning stretches on, food slips quietly out of focus. Work takes over. Muscles warm. Thoughts narrow. The body carries what it has eaten without complaint. It does not ask for more yet. The sun rises higher. The sense of morning begins to loosen. Hunger waits somewhere ahead, calm and patient. Food waits too. Already existing in the pot, already shaped by habit rather than decision. Nothing here feels urgent. Nothing demands attention. Food continues doing what it has always done, quietly supporting the day, asking very little, and offering just enough to keep everything moving forward at the same slow, familiar pace, as the morning slowly releases its hold. The day moves into a softer middle stretch. The light is steadier now. Shadows shorten, then linger. Work continues with the same quiet persistence, and food follows along without asking to be noticed. Eating at this time does not feel like a separate act. It feels like part of breathing, part of standing, part of continuing. Hunger returns gently, without urgency. It does not interrupt. It waits for a moment when hands can pause. When that moment arrives, food is already nearby. Bread is unwrapped. A bowl is lifted. There is no sense of beginning. Eating simply resumes. Midday food is practical above all else. It must be easy to carry, easy to eat, easy to stop. Bread serves this purpose well. Dense, filling, reliable. Sometimes it is dipped into liquid. Sometimes it is eaten dry, chewed slowly until it softens. The body does the rest of the work. Alongside the bread, there may be something warm. The pot has been tended all morning. It has accepted additions. Without protest, grain thickens the liquid. Vegetables lose their edges. Everything becomes gentle. Ladled into bowls, it looks the same as it did yesterday. That sameness is expected. People eat wherever they are able. On a low wall, on the ground, near the edge of a field. There is no ideal place for meals. Comfort comes from familiarity, not surroundings. The food tastes the same everywhere. Fat, when it appears, changes the meal quietly. A thin layer on the surface of soup. A small piece of pork shared among several people. These additions are noticed, but not celebrated. They strengthen the body for what remains of the day. That is enough. Cheese appears sparingly. It is cut with care, not delicacy. Portions are small, but satisfying. The taste is strong compared to everything else. It lingers slightly longer on the tongue. People chew more slowly when cheese is present, not to enjoy it, but to make it last. Fruit, if the season allows, arrives briefly. An apple passed from hand to hand, a pear eaten where it stands. Sweetness is simple and fleeting. No one expects it to return tomorrow. Its presence is accepted without attachment. Drinks remain modest. Ale diluted enough to refresh without dulling thought. Water only when it is trusted. Thirst is answered carefully, just as hunger is. Not through discipline, but through habit. Children eat in the same way as adults, learning by watching rather than instruction. They learn how to wait. They learn how to stop before the bowl is empty if needed. They learn that food belongs to everyone and must last. In religious houses, midday meals pass in quiet order. Food is eaten slowly, often in silence. There is no sense of deprivation. There is only routine. Bread, vegetables, fish. Always enough, never too much. As the sun begins its gradual descent, the body senses what remains to be done. Hunger eases again, retreating without complaint. Food has done its work for now. It will be needed again later, and it knows this. The day continues, held together by these small, steady acts. Eating happens without emphasis. It supports the rhythm of work and rest without ever standing apart from it. Nothing about it feels remarkable. And in that unremarkable steadiness, the medieval day remains balanced, sustained quietly by food that asks for no attention and receives none. Evening approaches in the same unhurried way it always does. The light softens. The edges of things lose their sharpness. Work does not stop suddenly. It slowly loosens, allowing hands to rest more often, allowing bodies to acknowledge their weight. Hunger returns again, not sharply, but with a familiar presence that feels almost companionable. The evening meal gathers itself quietly. No one announces it. The pot has been there all day, holding warmth, holding continuity. It is stirred again. Gently, more out of habit than need. Steam rises in a thin line and disappears into the air. The smell does not surprise anyone. It belongs to the room now. Bread is brought out once more. Sometimes it is the same loaf from the morning, reduced now, lighter in the hand. Sometimes it is a different one, baked earlier and waiting its turn. Pieces are broken carefully, not ceremonially, just evenly. Fairness matters more than presentation. The food in the pot has changed again. Time has worked on it steadily. What was once thin has become thicker. What was once separate has blended fully. Vegetables have softened into the whole. Grain has... If meat was ever present, it is no longer distinct. The meal has become one thing. People sit closer together in the evening, drawn inward by fading light and shared warmth. Conversation drifts in and out without urgency. Silence is common and comfortable. Eating does not require explanation or commentary. The sound of spoons against bowls fills the space where words might otherwise be. For many, this is the most sustaining meal of the day. The body responds slowly, shoulders lower, breathing deepens. Hunger steps back, satisfied for now. There is no indulgence in this feeling, only recognition. Enough has been eaten. That is all that is required. Utensils are simple: spoons, knives, fingers. Bowls are shared, passed, returned. These movements are practiced and gentle. No one rushes. There is nowhere else to be. Darkness is already waiting outside. After eating, there is a pause that feels important, even if it is never named. People remain seated. They let warmth settle inside them. Food takes time to do its work, and this time is respected. Standing too quickly would feel wrong, though no one could say why. What remains of the meal is handled carefully. The pot is covered. Bread is wrapped. Nothing is discarded casually. Leftovers are not leftovers in the modern sense. They are simply tomorrow, waiting quietly. As the fire is allowed to burn lower, attention drifts away from food. It has fulfilled its role. The body no longer asks for it. Instead, it asks for stillness, for rest, for sleep. Outside, the land holds its future meals in silence. Fields wait, gardens rest. Animals settle into the night, unaware of their place in the cycle. Everything remains connected, even as activity fades. The medieval day closes without conclusion or reflection. There is no sense of ending. Only the steady feeling of having eaten enough, of having lasted another day. Hunger is already moving forward, patient and familiar, ready to return tomorrow, where it will be met again by the same quiet foods, prepared in the same quiet ways. The days move forward without marking themselves, and food continues to move with them. By now, the rhythm is so familiar it barely registers. Morning and evening, hunger and rest, all follow each other with quiet certainty. Nothing feels new, and nothing feels finished. The medieval table exists inside this calm repetition, steady enough to be trusted. Seasonal change is felt most clearly through food. Not announced, not discussed, but noticed in small ways. A vegetable disappears from the pot. Another takes its place. The taste shifts slightly, then settles again. People do not name the season by the calendar. They feel it by what they are eating and what they are no longer eating. In times when grain stores are full, meals feel a little more relaxed. Bread is cut a bit thicker. Porridge is ladled without hesitation. There is no celebration of this, only a subtle easing in posture. When stores grow lighter, the opposite happens just as quietly. Portions shrink. Water stretches the pot further. No one needs to say anything. Everyone can see it. Food preparation remains slow and patient. Grinding grain takes time and effort. Arms grow tired. The sound repeats itself steadily. Flour collects. Gradually, never all at once. This labor is accepted without resentment. It has always been this way. The body learns to match its pace. Cooking does not chase perfection. It waits. Pots simmer for hours, sometimes all day. Heat rises and falls as fuel allows. The food adapts. It thickens, thins, softens. People trust this process. They do not interfere unless something goes wrong. Even then, the solution is usually more time. Flavor continues to come from familiarity rather than contrast. Meals taste like the house they are eaten in. Smoke from the hearth, wood from the bowls. The same hands preparing the same foods day after day. This creates a sameness that is deeply grounding. The body recognizes it and relaxes. When meat appears, it does so quietly. A small piece added to the pot. Fat melting slowly into everything. Else, no one treats it as a centerpiece. It is a contribution, not a statement. The meal remains what it always was, only slightly richer. Fish plays a similar role. Dried or salted, it brings a different texture, a different weight. It is soaked patiently, then cooked until it yields. The smell is strong at first, then fades into the room. People grow used to it. It becomes part of the background. Eating continues to happen where it fits. There is no insistence on sitting together, though it often happens naturally in the evening. During the day, food moves with people. A bite here, a bowl there. The act of eating is flexible, shaped by the demands of work rather than by custom. Children absorb these habits without instruction. They watch more than they are told. They learn when to take a little and when to leave some behind. They learn that food is shared and that it must last. These lessons settle deeply and remain for life. There are moments when hunger lingers longer than usual, days when the body notices the absence more clearly. Even then, food is approached calmly when it arrives. There is no rushing, no hoarding. Experience has taught patience, and patience has taught survival. As the day moves on, the presence of food fades again into the background. It has done enough. It will be there again later. Nothing about this cycle feels uncertain. It has repeated itself too many times to inspire worry. And so the medieval world continues to eat as it always has, slowly, quietly, without expectation of change. Food remains steady, unremarkable, and deeply woven into the fabric of every day. Life, holding it together one simple meal at a time, as the day reaches its fuller stretch. There is a sense of continuation rather than progress. Time does not feel like it is moving forward so much as circling gently. Food follows this feeling closely. It does not change direction. It stays with what it knows. Midday eating arrives without clear borders. There is no signal that announces it. Instead, bodies simply begin to slow. Hands pause. Backs straighten briefly. Hunger makes itself known in a mild, familiar way. It is not sharp. It does not demand attention. It waits. Food is already close. Bread, once again, plays its quiet role. It is carried easily. It survives. Being handled, dropped, wrapped, unwrapped. A piece is broken off and eaten slowly, sometimes while standing, sometimes while leaning against something solid. Chewing takes time, and that time is accepted. Alongside bread, there may be something warm, taken from the pot that has been simmering for hours. The liquid is thicker now. Grain has absorbed much of it. Vegetables have softened to the point of losing their shape. The spoon moves steadily, lifting food that looks the same in every bowl. Consistency is expected. Eating at this hour rarely involves sitting for long. Work still calls. Fields need tending. Tools wait. Food fits itself into these demands. A few mouthfuls are enough to quiet hunger. Fullness is postponed. The body knows it can manage on less for now. Fat remains one of the most valued parts of the meal, even in small amounts. A slight richness changes how long food lasts in the body. It slows hunger's return. A thin layer on the surface of soup is noticed, even if nothing is said. These details matter, though they are rarely discussed. Cheese, when present, is eaten thoughtfully. It is firm, sometimes sharp, sometimes nearly tasteless. It requires effort to chew, and that effort is part of its value. The taste stays longer than bread or porridge. It marks the meal quietly before fading. Vegetables continue their steady presence. Beans, peas, leeks, onions. They are not chosen. They are used. Their flavors blend into the whole, becoming part of the background rather than standing apart. Texture matters more than taste. Softness means the food has done its work. Fruit appears when the season allows. Never promised, never expected. An apple eaten slowly. A handful of berries shared. Sweetness arrives briefly, then disappears again. There is no attempt to hold on to it. Memory is enough. Drinks remain simple and restrained. Ale is common, watered down and mild. It refreshes without overwhelming. Water is taken carefully, only when it is known to be safe. Thirst is answered with the same caution as hunger. Children eat alongside adults, following the same rhythms. They learn when to pause and when to move on. They learn that food is not something to rush toward or away from. It is something to meet calmly when it appears. In religious communities, midday meals continue in silence or near silence. Eating becomes almost meditative, though no one names it that way. Each movement is deliberate. Each portion is modest. The meal ends without emphasis, and the day resumes. As the afternoon deepens, hunger retreats again. Food has done enough for now. The body carries what it needs forward, returning its attention to work and movement. Eating slips back into the background, where it belongs. The day holds together through these quiet acts. Nothing dramatic occurs. Nothing is resolved. Food simply maintains life, moment by moment, allowing the medieval world to continue moving at its familiar, unhurried pace. Evening settles in slowly, as it always does, without signaling that it has arrived. The light softens and stretches, lingering on walls and floors before withdrawing. Work eases not because it is complete, but because the body has reached a natural pause. Hunger returns again, quietly, in a way that feels expected rather than demanding. The evening meal gathers itself with the same calm familiarity as every other day. The pot has remained close to the fire, never fully forgotten. It is stirred gently, almost absent-mindedly. Steam rises and fades. The smell is not something new. It belongs to this space, to these people, to this hour. Bread appears once more. Perhaps the last of a loaf that has grown smaller over the course of the day. Its weight is lighter now. Its edges are firmer. It is broken carefully, not with ceremony, but with attention. Each piece must be fair. No one needs to speak for this to be understood. The food in the pot has changed again, shaped by time rather than intention. Grain has thickened the liquid. Vegetables have softened completely, losing their individual forms. If meat was added earlier, it has dissolved into the whole, no longer visible, only present as warmth and strength. The meal has become unified, steady, complete in its simplicity. People sit closer together in the evening, drawn inward by the fading light and the shared warmth of the fire. Conversation drifts in and out, sometimes present, sometimes absent. Silence is common and comfortable. Eating does not require words. The sound of spoons against bowls fills the space gently. For many, this is the most sustaining meal of the day. The body responds slowly but clearly. Shoulders relax, breathing deepens. Hunger loosens its hold and steps back. There is no excitement. In this moment, only recognition. Enough has been eaten. That is sufficient. Utensils are simple and familiar. A spoon lifted, a bowl tilted slightly, bread dipped into liquid to soften it. These motions are practiced and unremarkable. They've been learned so thoroughly that they no longer feel like actions at all. They are part of the body's memory. After eating, there is a pause that feels natural and necessary. No one stands immediately. People remain seated, allowing the warmth of food to spread gradually. This moment of stillness is not planned, but it is respected. Rising too quickly would feel wrong, even if no one could explain why. What remains of the meal is handled with care. The pot is covered. Bread is wrapped. Nothing is discarded casually. Leftovers are not mistakes. They are part of tomorrow, already waiting quietly. Food is never separated from time. It always reaches forward. As the fire burns lower, attention drifts away from eating. Food has completed its work. The body no longer asks for it. Instead, it asks for rest, for stillness, for the quiet that follows a day of steady effort. Outside, the land holds its future meals in silence. Fields rest, gardens wait. Animals settle into the night, unaware of their place in the long pattern of sustenance. Everything remains connected, even as activity fades. The medieval day closes without reflection or conclusion. There is no sense of ending, only continuity. Hunger has been answered, for now. It will return, patiently, as it always does. And when it does, it will be met again by the same quiet foods, prepared in the same quiet ways, sustaining life gently, one unremarkable evening at a time.